Welcome to the Growth Leaders Podcast, where we ignite the spark of innovation and inspire the pursuit of excellence. Today, I'm ready to buckle up for an electrifying journey to the realm of continuous learning with our extraordinary guest, Laura. Laura isn't just a leader. She's a trailblazer in the world of learning and development. As the head of learning and development for Humana CenterWell Pharmacy, an organization with plus 12,000 associates, she's the driving force behind transformative growth and unstoppable progress. A side project, as important, she's the Chief Learning Officer at the Human Health Project. Imagine a world where every corner of your organization pulsates with the rhythm of growth, where curiosity is contagious and learning knows no bounds. Today, Laura takes center stage to unravel the secrets of creating a culture of continuous learning. So, grab your notepads, fasten seatbelts, and prepare to embark on an exhilarating digital discovery with Laura on the Growth Leaders Podcast. Get ready to unlock a future filled with boundless possibilities. Well, that is something, Laura.
Thank you, Peter. That was a really great introduction, and I will try to not let you down.
Thank you. And I'm going to jump straight in because you and I, we chat a little bit. A few years back, you had a pretty tough experience in the organization. And I would like you're okay to share that experience and how you actually overcame it as such, because I think it's a great story. Maybe it's not too unusual either. I don't know.
Oh, so are we talking about the time that I went through some tough change?
Yes, exactly. So
in the healthcare industry in general, and in my company specifically, change is pretty constant. And you really do, like you said in your introduction, you have to buckle up and get ready for the ride. Sometimes you're ready and sometimes you're not. And I've shared this story with lots of people. One time I really was not ready for a change. And there was a situation that impacted me personally, not just my team. And it really made me feel demoralized. And long story short, I did not handle that change well. And I ended up making what could be potentially called a career-limiting move, and how I reacted to it. Well, luckily, the leader that was running the phone call was very compassionate and just reacted with such grace and just kindness. Just let me sit there in my feelings, in my negative feelings and my negative assumptions about what was going on. I did not react in a positive way, and I was in so much pain. But I had some really wonderful people, especially my boss, support me through what I felt like was the end of my career. And a decision that I thought was personal to me really was not personal at all to me, but I felt like it was. The only reason I got through it was because of the wonderful people that worked with me, who supported me. I tell that story. I don't think I always tell it well, but I told the story to a few other people, and they said, you should really think about expanding this and talking to other people about how painful changes that they go through in the organization can be things that motivate them to do better things in the future as well. So I took that very painful change that I went through, and I turned it into a session which I lead for people all the time, at least once every other week now, on how you can thrive through change. I would have probably quit or eventually gotten toxic and been let go. But there were people there who helped me. And so
how long was this time, from this happening until, getting over it a little bit at least, and then actually starting with creative thoughts about making a positive change out of it? What are we talking about? 3 months, a year, or how long time do we have in between?
So getting through that change, probably I was in a better place within a month. and in a much better place within about 3 months. And then about, I would say at least 6 months later, I was ready to help other people. It took at least 6 months. So I would probably say when I go through difficult things, either in my life or my professional life, it takes about 6 to 12 months for me to really get through them enough to be able to help other people. Now I have this great session that I get to do with people that's very relevant to my life and the difficult things that I've gone through. And I get to say to people,
is that what you're doing right now? We'll expand a little bit more on that. That is within this organization also, isn't it? Or
yes, I do that at
do it?
Humana.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how is the sign up for this, or how do you reach out to people? And what are you doing to make this happen and actually gathering?
So I have a bunch of professional development sessions that I lead for our organization. And if you're interested in it, if you want your team to do it, you just send me an email and I find a time that works for you and your team. And I go through this presentation with people. It's very, let's talk about what we've all been through. People talk about what they've been through. They give me ideas on, ways you can do different things to recover, get through the change. We actually talk about change as sort of like the grief cycle. And so we talk about that and then how to become productive enough to accept the change and move on.
Do you get the leaders to join this too?
Oh, absolutely. I have a whole session
Yeah,
on leading through change too. I usually
that's
have
great.
people go through the thriving through change session first and then do the leading through change session. Because I think a lot of us think that we're great at adjusting to changes, especially when we have some sort of stake in those changes or ownership. We were involved in the decision. But when a change happens, even those of us who are really good at dealing with change, it can knock us on our backs. It can really disrupt us. And so even those people who are usually change advocates need to know
Mm.
how change impacts people so that when we go through those tough emotions, inevitably, because we will at some point, we can figure out what's going on with me. How do I need to get through this? How do I process this so that I can help my team get through this?
And that is, of course, important because the leaders, anyone running change, I mean, you have a lot of free information. You also have a pretty good idea what you expect. You see the light in the tunnel, and everyone is sitting on the last wagon, seeing nothing. So that's an important piece. And I guess communication should be one of the things which is coming up quite a lot on the leadership side, and maybe to everyone, how things are communicated.
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about a lot in the leading through change session is that if you are leading in a time of change, it's your job not just to talk about what's changing or why, but as a leader, you have to help your team understand the what's in it for me. And it's the leader's job to say, well, this impacts our customer, our consumer in this way. And so you will be supporting it in this way. Or this impacts employees in this way. And so it's relevant to you in this way. I think when people don't understand like the whole bigger picture, it's very hard for them to support their piece of the puzzle. So, for leaders, a lot of times the leaders are in a position where they get that big picture view from our executives and they can own their understanding of it. But if that doesn't cascade, if leaders who have teams who are impacted by this, those leaders don't cascade the what's in it for me, our teams are never going to own it. They're not going to support it. And so that's why so many change initiatives fail. It's not that the process of change that they've done it wrong. It's that the people on the bottom who are doing the work don't have ownership or a stake in it.
And there is a very good way to actually overcome this as a leader, but also that is when you are explaining what's happening, that is actually using "so that," because then you actually have to explain the implication of what's going to happen and so on. And if we move back a little bit, Laura, what got you into learning and development and people management? What excited you, or was it just happening?
It was an interesting combination of needing a new job and doing something I knew. So I started my career as a teacher. I was a high school teacher and had to move states. And I knew curriculum writing because of writing lesson
Hmm.
plans. And I thought, I kind of like this. This is interesting. Um, so when I moved and I needed to find a job really quickly, and I found a company that was looking for an instructional designer or curriculum writer. So I got
Mm.
into that company and I pretty quickly realized this is not a great company for me, but this is a great job for me. So I came to Humana just a few months after that, and directly from that other job. And I had probably the most incredible boss. I will just say right now, Ken Kuplick was my first boss at Humana, and he really supported me. He helped me understand how to work in the corporate world. It was my first corporate job. He helped me understand, working in a team with people that you work with really well, and then people who were maybe more challenging or who were different from me, who I hadn't experienced yet. And it was because of him that I stayed so long.
So what qualities does a good leader have if you now look in the organization? And I mean, we could actually talk about both sides, but if we start with the great qualities, the good qualities, which makes people enjoy, like, motivate, engage, and so on. What are those in your view?
Um, I think the first thing that a leader needs to have is honesty, because if you don't tell your team what's going on, if you're not transparent with them, they're never going to trust what you're saying. And in the corporate world, there's so many things changing all at once. Your leader needs to keep up with telling you, here's what's going on at this level. And I think another one, now leadership is a lot more empathetic. So empathy and vulnerability, I think, are two very, very intertwined leadership qualities that are super important. Empathy, because you have to be able to put yourself in your team's shoes and recognize they're doing their very best for you. If you don't have empathy, you should not be a leader. And then vulnerability, because I think sometimes people get into leadership and they forget to be a human. They just think, oh, I have
Hmm.
to be this executive who is pushing forward the strategy and the vision. And when you're vulnerable, when you're showing them the things that hurt, the things that make you happy, the things that bring you joy, they recognize they can do those things too. They can bring their whole selves to work when you bring your whole self to work. So in my mind, those are the three absolute biggest things,
Uh,
transparency, empathy, and vulnerability.
yeah, and I normally, when I look at great leaders, and many times those who are the very highest top, they're many times humble, humble towards other people, humble into their work, and humble. And I guess that's really also what you are explaining here. Um,
And it actually, that kind of brings up, I think it was Simon Sinek who said, um, I can't remember how he said it, but it was something about how, all the success in the world for me, that's great. But what I really want to do is I want to see my team succeed. And if my team is succeeding, then I'm succeeding too, of course.
mm,
But it is not just my job, but it is sort of my vocation in life to help all these people that work for me find their right path and find their career and find the things that bring them joy. So real leaders, if they're truly humble, are going to help their team shine, because, you're going to be working with these people for a long time. They're not going to remember what you did. They're going to remember how you made them feel. They'll carry that with them. And the number one reason people leave jobs, besides money and stuff, is because of a bad boss. So don't be that person.
And it's quite interesting. It's a year ago we actually launched a course calling Leading with Kindness. And it's really important also. Being kind does not mean that you're not firm in your decision and that you're not clear in your objectives. And you are good at giving feedback, positive, negative, but you're kind. And then you're a human in there. So that is goes well into all this. Now in your role, I guess you face quite a lot also. I mean, creating a learning culture. I would believe what you've been doing right now with your own stuff is part of creating a learning culture within your organization, isn't it? But how do you approach building a learning culture in your organization here and getting people and leaders to support those initiatives?
Well, I think one of the very best ways to get started building a learning culture is to help people see the value of building a learning culture. When you have associates in your organization and they are not learning and growing, your organization is going to become stagnant. And if you do something like a Gallup poll or, pulse survey or whatever it is that you take, and you see active disengagement when people are not engaged with your organization, that is an extremely dangerous situation. You're about to have really high attrition. You're about to have lower quality scores. You're about to have much worse customer experience in everything you do. So looking at a learning culture as critical to the organization is how you have to position it. You look at those scores and you say, what will increase engagement? Like if engagement's really low, what increases engagement? Find ways to do that. In our own organization, we're about to have a development week that I'm starting, which is like a week of professional development, building business acumen, doing some well-being sessions. And the purpose is both to encourage people to learn and grow, but then also to more deeply understand the business. And when people have an opportunity to learn and grow and they understand the business, they feel like there's somewhere to go in the organization. If we have job openings and they understand how their skills relate to other areas of the business, they're more likely to apply for them. And we want people to stay. We want people to stick around. We want all the experience and the learning that they've built along the way to carry with them into this next role. So
Is that learning week for the whole company or is it for parts of it? And also, are you using technology in here? I mean, virtual, physical,
yes, it's for
online.
It's for CenterWell Pharmacy. So anybody who's an associate in the pharmacy can come to it. It's all on Zoom, but they're all recorded.
So how much are you using technology in your work here? I mean, you were mentioning the learning management systems, and that's online training, and then you could have blended training, you could have physical training, you could have, as you say, recorded training. How do you work with the mix of these things?
Wow, that's a big question. So we do use technology. All of our training is online. There's self-study components where you go and you will do modules or you will do videos, read things, and then come back generally to sessions with a facilitator to kind of talk through those things, touch bases. And then there are some practice things that we do that are individual, but not necessarily modules. Those will be more experience-based.
And do you have some specific metrics also for the difference? Was this a great training? I mean, it could be from a performance perspective, or it could just be a great experience as such. Is there a metrics you're working on? That's always a difficult question to answer because it's a hell of a lot difficult to define those metrics. But
Yeah.
how are you approaching that?
It's different for every business area. So of course we have our standard
Okay.
level 1, level 2 assessments. Many programs have a level 3 assessment. Generally, we want to see how are we impacting the metrics that the business cares about. So quality scores are big ones for us. So how are associates doing in their, back on the job? How are they adhering to all of the processes that they're supposed to be adhering to? All of them are different, but I will tell you we're on a journey to have metrics calls with our clients to talk through how the learning programs impacted quality, process, other kind of metrics that we are tracking too. So if we're trying to reduce attrition or something, does the program impact attrition? Or if there's a call class, how do we impact average handling time? Or if it's a more analytical role, how are we impacting people's accuracy on that particular job function?
Okay, that's a really good way to approach it. So, Laura, let's move a little bit outside. When you're off,
Okay.
what are you doing when you're off? We can. I know you have some great projects, and we can touch on those too. But where do you get in balance with life? Is it family, running, or what are you doing as a person?
Well, actually, I have some really pretty hills behind my house here, which I can see right now through my window. So I really love going hiking. Hiking is probably my soul restoring activity. I started getting into it during COVID. I read this book, fantastic book I would highly recommend, called I Found My Tribe. And it's about this woman
Okay, yeah.
whose husband is dying of ALS, and nature helps her cope with this horrific experience that she's going through. And I looked outside at the hills and went, why am I not out there? Why am I not taking advantage of this free therapy that is right here? And I started going hiking. So as much as I can, I will take a hike. There's a 40-minute loop that goes through my neighborhood and into the hills and then back down. I do that as much as I can. My kids love going into the hills further because there's this great waterfall area we can go to. And if it's the fall or the spring or the winter, there's water there, which in California is a big deal. We're like, oh, there's actual water. Let's go see it.
That's great.
So that's probably my biggest thing I love doing.
Which is your favorite city in California?
Oh, clearly San Diego. I mean, it's definitely the best. I'm sorry if anybody's watching this and they're from LA or San Francisco. But I live an hour north of San Diego, so it's probably one of the best cities.
Yeah, well, that's so beautiful. Should we just end up mentioning a little bit about your side project also, where you're working as a CLO, aren't you?
Yes.
Chief Learning Officer. And that's maybe because it's a project really helping out for other people. Could you just mention a little bit about that?
Sure. And also, we are always looking for help. So if anyone is inspired by this, please send me a message. The Human Health Project is an organization that was started to give health information and education to patients and caregivers. Really, a lot of the problem in healthcare is that You don't always know what the rules are. You don't always know how to be your own advocate. You don't always know where to find the resources that you need. So the Human Health Project is aimed at helping people take control of their health and their healthcare decisions. And that's really the thing that brought me into it. I got long COVID a couple years ago, and it was brutal. It was just brutal. And I had to educate myself on all of the research that was happening. I was looking at peer-reviewed studies that were way above my reading comprehension level. Even having gone to grad school, I was like, I don't really understand this, but I'm going to keep plowing through it. So I gave myself a master's degree in long COVID research. But how many people, if they don't have a particular health issue, would do that kind of stuff? Probably very, very few. So the great thing about the Human Health Project is that it gives those pieces of information, that education, to people before they need it or while they need it. So all of the information's free. It's a 501c3, and it's just really aimed at helping you have better health, truly, or your caregivers more resources to help you as they're taking care of you. So they were looking.
Where do they find you?
Where did HHP find me, or where did I?
No, if anyone wants to find this organization and what you guys are doing, where do they search?
So
Where do
just
they look?
Google Human Health Project. It's humanhealthproject.org, and it's available. There's lots of volunteer opportunities through Volunteer Match. Or if you're in learning and development and you'd like to help with content development or language translations, we are always looking for help. You would be working with me and our other instructional designers who are building some of the course content for our Learning Academy. And there are lots of other opportunities if you're in another field. There's, marketing, there's data, there's, even HR. We always need HR help. So lots of different fields and different ways that you can help if you are so inclined. It's not a huge time commitment, but it's an impactful one. And I think it's a really important one.
I think that is a great initiative, and everyone listening, take the chance, contact Laura, and see what you can help out with. I think it was just great talking to you, Laura, today. Sharing your insights and how you approach things is beautiful. So thank you being part of the Growth Leaders podcast show, and looking forward to seeing your journey moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Have a great day.
I will indeed. Thanks the same.